And I'd like to start just by introducing myself and my colleagues. So my name is Sally Trung. I'm the Director of the Private Sector Partnership section in the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. I have my colleague here, Jo Simpson, who's the Senior Policy Officer in my team. And from our Australian High Commission, I have Laura McElhinney, who is Second Secretary and Consul, and Micheline Tuaha, who's our Private Sector Partnerships Manager. And from Palladium, who's helping us to implement the BPP program, I have Ariane Gauchard, the team leader for the BPP, and Angus Chawat, who's our Senior Program Officer in the BPP. Today we'll give you an overview of the BPP and also the application process. We'll be very happy to answer your questions at the end of the presentation. So please, if you have any questions, put into the chat function, into the chat box, and if you could identify your organisation ahead of your question, that would be great. Just a reminder to please keep yourself muted for the duration of the presentation so that other participants can hear. So just to give you a bit of information about the Business Partnerships Platform. The Business Partnerships Platform is the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, or DFAT as we call ourselves, our flagship development private sector engagement program. It supports partnerships between the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade and inclusive businesses to create both development impacts and sustainable commercial returns through core business models. So under the BPP, to date, we have 33 partnerships with 73 organisations across 16 countries. We've been able to leverage $25.9 million from private sector other partners in our BPP partnerships. We've been able to benefit 5.3 million people with products and services, 2.7 of which are women, and also 160,000 people have increased their incomes and have been provided with better job opportunities from the BPP to date. The Australian Government COVID Development Response Strategy, Partnerships for Recovery, recognises that the COVID-19 global pandemic is currently the overriding challenge for our region. The response is centred around three core pillars: health security, stability, and economic recovery. And it emphasises that we will work very strongly with the private sector in order to particularly meet the economic recovery pillar of our strategy. Because we recognise that the private sector is a critical accelerator of inclusive growth and has a lot of innovative ideas that we can bring to the work that we do with our partner countries. Through the COVID recovery round in Samoa, we are supporting the expansion of the BPP to inclusive business practices to build more resilient communities. And so that is the opportunity that we're presenting to you today. So why is it so important for the Australian government to work with the private sector? COVID-19 has presented opportunities and challenges both for Australia and our partner countries in the region. And capital is critical to re-establishing markets and value chains and helping the region to recover from COVID-19. COVID-19 also presents an opportunity for Australian, international and local businesses in our partner countries, including Samoa, to extend their interest into the region and diversify regional supply chains. So Australia is using our development assistance in markets in our region to leverage private sector expertise and finance to help achieve, as I mentioned before, economic recovery, but to reduce also poverty and drive sustainable growth. Because businesses bring a lot of efficiencies, they're very innovative and they have ingenuity that they add to our partnerships that are able to strengthen the way that the Australian government can work with the private sector to achieve development outcomes. So what is the value that the BPP can bring to you as a business? The Australian government has a number of connections to an extensive network and an understanding of country and business environments that you can leverage from. We can help you to build your capability to capture and report on social impact. We can provide catalytic funding so that you can deliver scalable business initiatives. We have a lot of gender expertise, which allows you to strengthen your social impact and value the benefits that focusing on gender can bring. And we have very robust safeguards and standards and practices which help you to manage the risks in the partnerships that we enter into with you. And the Australian government brand has national and global recognition. So the BPP is very much centred around a partnership model. Partnerships are driven by all partners coming together and agreeing and pursuing shared priorities. It is underpinned by open communication and accountability to each other as partners. It allows us to share risks and benefits that we have in the partnerships that we have, and it allows us to recognise and respond to the strengths that we have and allow us to come together and collaborate in a way that makes the best of those strengths. Through the BPP, we guide partners through a collaborative work process. We use a partnerships framework to help us to do that. And the partnership framework recognises that both DFAT and businesses and non-business entities such as NGOs have significant skills, expertise and resources that they can all bring to the partnership. This allows us to build equity together and benefit from each other's collective skills, our expertise and resources, to address challenges together that we can't solve alone. It allows us to build flexibility and mutual accountability into the ways that we work with each other, to adapt more flexibly to challenges and contexts, particularly the ever-evolving context of COVID-19. We are able to be open and collaborate on diverse subjects and joint initiatives where it helps us to achieve our partnership goals and improves the way that we manage risk by being open with each other, identifying early any issues and co-designing solutions together to be able to forward the goals of the partnership. And lastly, it helps us to develop long-term relationships which can last beyond the funding period of the BPP. So I'd like to hand over now to my colleague Angus, who will give you an overview of the application process.
Thanks very much, Sally. So I'm just wanting to go into a little bit more depth about what the process looks like for potential applicants and give you a bit more information about what the opportunity is. So basically what the opportunity is, so the Australian government is offering Australian dollars 100,000 to $500,000 in matched funding. So applicants must match or exceed the investment from the Australian government through both cash and in-kind investment. And the BPP also, throughout the course of partnerships, offers technical assistance to partners in a range of areas, including business advisory support, gender and inclusion advisory support, results measurement, and partnership brokers to help partners to really build inclusive and commercial business models. Businesses are able to apply on their own or in consortiums with other organisations, such as NGOs, but there must be a commercial organisation at the heart of the partnership. They don't necessarily have to be a Samoan business. You can also bring in investment and partners from outside of Samoa. So partners from Australia and New Zealand, for example, are welcome to be involved, but the partnership should be implemented in Samoa. So the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade will also undertake a due diligence assessment before entering a contract with successful applicants. And this will include looking at things like policies and procedures in terms of hiring practices, avoiding things like child labour and reputational and financial risks to the Australian government. So partners will need to pass that assessment in order to progress. We're looking at entering into contracts with business partners between 1 and 3 years. And so initiatives should have a start date between the 1st of April and the 30th of June next year. The BPP's focus themes align with what Sally mentioned earlier, the Australian Government's development strategy, Partnerships for Recovery. So we're looking for business partnerships which will support the Samoan government in one of three areas: health security, stability, or economic recovery. So under health security, we were looking for partnerships, business partnerships which can improve health systems and preparedness, access to medical and health products and information, effective management of diseases, and sexual and reproductive health and rights. In stability, we're looking at partnerships which can support skills and job creation, especially for women and people with disabilities, support gender equality and addressing gender-based violence, renewable energy, strengthening natural disaster resilience and managing climate risk, or improving food security. And under the economic recovery pillar, we're looking at business partnerships which improve supply chains and value chain diversification, revitalise export markets, support digital transformation and e-commerce, and recovery in the tourism sector. The application process. We have gone with a two-stage application process. So the first stage is for applicants to submit a concept note through our Smarty Grants platform, and you can find the link for that concept note submission on our website. So the concept note is supposed to be a short, sharp ideation, because we understand that businesses are very busy at the moment and there's a lot of challenges, so we don't want to take up a lot of time with this application. So shortlisted applicants will then be invited to meet and discuss their concept notes in more detail. So this is a two-way opportunity to learn more about the Australian government and what partnering with the Australian government means, and to answer a lot of questions about the process, as well as for the Australian government to ask for more clarifications on your concept note and really build an understanding of what the partnership will look like. Shortlisted applicants are then supported to submit a full proposal. Again, this will again be through the Smarty Grants platform. And these proposals will be assessed by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and a decision will be made with the hope for partnership kickoff meetings to be held in February, March of next year, and implementation to begin. So the Business Partnerships platform has 5 selection criteria. These are partnership, commercial viability, social impact, gender equality and social inclusion, and value for money. More information on each of these selection criteria can be found in the applicant guidelines, which are on our website. But I'll just give a little brief overview of what we're looking for under each criteria. So under partnership, as Sally has mentioned earlier, we're really looking for partnerships to demonstrate a mutual sharing of objectives, priorities and capabilities, and that the partnership will be able to deliver greater results than what could be achieved individually. Commercial viability is really key to the ongoing sustainability of initiatives beyond the BPP contract period. And so commercial business models which are able to drive revenue and scale with that revenue are really what we're looking for. Social impact, what we're looking for under that is for business partnerships to offer a product and service which will have social impact for consumers, or looking at driving inclusivity or improving productivity in supply chains to have increased incomes and improved livelihoods opportunities, or we're looking at supporting the adoption of inclusive business practices. So that could be things like supporting gender participation or disability participation in business. In terms of gender equality and social inclusion, we're really looking at improving women or disabled people's standing in communities. And we look at this through 3 lenses, which is improving their economic position, improving the social status, or improving the safety of women and girls and other marginalised communities. Value for money. So what we're looking for is that the DFAT investment is able to leverage investment from other partners in the partnership. and it's able to achieve something that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And we're also looking at the cost effectiveness of each initiative and how far the reach is for the investment that we've made. What are we looking for in a concept note? So you can see the first page of the concept note template here. And again, the concept note template is available from our website and through our Smarty Grants portal. But basically through this template, we're looking for a clear purpose, which is linked to the COVID-19 recovery and themes of health security, stability, and economic recovery. A clear description of the challenge your proposal is addressing, and examples of how the activities proposed logically link to the activities, to the results, and how those results will help to address the challenge which you've proposed earlier. On the second page of the concept note, we're really looking for you to spell out the role of each partner who'll be involved in the initiative, and make it clear what each role is, what the contributions are, and how the contributions could not be achieved by one partner alone. On the final page, sorry, I think that's the second final page actually. The third page, what we're looking for is a clear business case for the proposal, so that your proposal is well researched and that you're confident the initiative will be able to generate revenue. A clear argument for why DFAT funding is needed, so that this wouldn't be able to happen without the investment or de-risking support of the BPP funding. An understanding of how the initiative will benefit diverse groups of people, particularly women and girls, and an understanding of how this business may help to improve environmental resilience or mitigate against climate change. On the final page, what we're looking for is a realistic evaluation of potential risks to business and partners, and ideas of how partners will be able to mitigate these risks. We're also looking for ideas of how partners will be able to measure their impact on both commercially as well as socially and on the environment. And we're also looking for a realistic proposal of a funding amount as well as co-contributions. I'll just say that for all of these things, support will be provided, for example, to develop a stronger measurement plan later on, and the budget is indicative at this stage. So what we're really looking for is ideas at this stage, not a concrete solution, but just that you have thought about these things and you have some clear ideas of how you're going to go about it. So what does inclusive business look like in practice? I've got an example here from the BPP portfolio from India. So basically, in emerging markets, delivering reliable electricity for rural areas is a huge challenge for governments and grid operators. What we're seeing is critical capital shortages, growing operating losses for grid operators, and 4 billion underserved users, many of whom are in the Asia-Pacific region. An Australian technology company has partnered with DFAT to deliver an innovative capital-light grid management platform for villages in rural India. And what we've been able to see as a result of this pilot is measurable benefits for all stakeholders involved. So we've seen cheaper and more reliable electricity for consumers, a reduction in costs for the grid operator, and manageable demand in peak hours. Women have been able to invest in time-saving productive appliances and focus more time on income-generating activities. We've seen jobs and professional development opportunities emerge in the community, as well as increased revenue for the business, who have then been able to take that revenue and reinvest, expanding this platform beyond the original scope of the BPP contract. So that's just an example of how a business can really drive benefits for all stakeholders as well as for itself. So in the Smarty Grants form, which again is accessible through our website, we do have a few screening questions. these screening questions are to support the BPP to better understand the controls and the safeguards that partners have in place. I'd just like to say that these screening questions are not scored at this stage of the application. It's really just to get a better idea so we can have discussions in those sessions if you are shortlisted later on. But a full due diligence assessment will not be conducted until after the full proposal is submitted. And following this due diligence assessment, it is possible if risks such as child labour or reputational or gender-based violence risks are identified, which cannot be mitigated against, the Australian government may choose not to continue in the partnership if it represents significant risk. So I referred to a number of key resources throughout the presentation. I'm just calling attention to those here. So as we mentioned, on the BPP website, you'll be able to find information about the call for partnerships, key dates, applicant guidelines, the concept note template, as well as examples of past partnerships. And on the Smarty Grants page, you'll be able to go in, complete the Smarty Grants form, access how to complete the concept note guidelines, which include examples. And so this slide deck will also be made available after the presentation, and the recording of the session will also be made available. So we thought we would leave some time for questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions which have come up over the course of the presentation or in your reading prior, please feel free to enter those in the chat box, and Sally or I will attempt to answer them.
So it really will depend on the quality and the scale of the projects that come in. But we were looking at between probably 2 and 4 partnerships in Samoa. So we have another question here about whether or not an individual can be a partner to the project. So an individual can be, as long as they have a business.
So the due date for the application is on the 12th of October, and the applications will close at midnight Australian time, so that's not Samoan time. And that's a hard close date, so there won't be any extensions to that date.
Maybe just to add that Angus mentioned the Smarty Grants platform. So we would advise that people do log into that platform at least a few days in advance, just in case there's a technical issue that we can help resolve. It's fairly straightforward, but better to just at least log in, and you can save your application, but log in at least a couple of days in advance.
Allows you to familiarize yourself with the template and make sure that you kind of know how to fill it in before the deadline. We have another question here that says, does this include partnership with a government organisation? So there is an ability to partner with a government organisation, provided there is a business partner as well in the partnership. So you can enter into a consortium. We have had previous partnerships where we've had a business partner with a government organisation to deliver a partnership, as well as businesses partnering with NGOs together to deliver partnerships.
And we also have a question here asking whether it has to be an Australian or New Zealand commercial partner or if they can be based. Applications are open to businesses from any country. So it doesn't have to be Australia or New Zealand. It can be a Fiji or Tonga or Samoa-based organisation as well, or anywhere where there's an interest in investing in Samoa.
But just to reiterate, the initiative needs to be within Samoa.
In terms of a new business without a financial history, they can be a secondary partner, but again, I would just say that you will have to pass that due diligence assessment. So you would probably need to think about whether you have the capacity to meet the Australian government's safeguarding requirements. But absolutely, if you have a stronger partner who is able to support you to do so, then this would be a way to mitigate against some of that risk. But also just a reminder that the partners will need to at least match the funding from the Australian government. So and that the minimum investment is $100,000 Australian dollars. In terms of whether the person needs to have a business license, in thinking of the case of commercial farmers who do not usually have business licenses, yes, we will need for partners to be registered with a business registration organisation. We have in the past worked through with commercial farmers who were not personally registered, but through things like cooperatives. So, for example, in Samoa, we have one partnership with the Savai Coconut Farmers Association, and we're working with Chrissy Company and the Savai Coconut Farmers Association and Fairtrade Australia and New Zealand to increase the production of coconut cream from Savai. So if we've been asked if we can run through the involvement of overseas partners to partner with local organisations. So previously, through the BP portfolio, we've seen a number of international organisations who are looking to enter new markets, partner with local organisations. So, for example, the example that I mentioned earlier about the grid management software in India, that was an Australian business who were looking to take a successful model from Western Australia into rural India. And they were able to partner with a local organisation on the ground in that village who had strong community networks. And they were really able, that local organisation was really able to help this Australian business to localise the concept, make it relevant to the environment that they were in rural India. And that really sped up the ability of the Australian business to deliver a successful pilot on the ground. So it was able to provide benefit for both the local and the Australian partner through that.
There's also opportunities for overseas partners to partner with small and micro enterprises in countries. So, for example, we had a partnership with Intrepid Travel, which is an Australian travel tour company in Myanmar, where they set up an ecotourism hub that helped women-led business SMEs to develop their businesses, such as providing handicrafts or local tours, which enabled Intrepid to enrich the tourism experience of their tourists through their company, but also then partnered with SMEs and built the capacity of SMEs in country. So that's another example of that effect.
In terms of implementation, if I can develop my technical product, am I still applicable to apply? I'm just asking, are you saying that you haven't yet developed the technical product that you were hoping to? because in that instance, we do have some examples of previous partnerships where, as part of the partnership, we enter into a research and development phase, and we would place in the contract maybe a stop-go that is dependent on the successful development of that product. So we have an example in Kenya where a partner is looking to develop an add-on to a ethanol-based stove. And yeah, we basically, the first year is the product development, and the second year, if that product development is able to be successful, would be the implementation of selling that product. So we do have some examples of that. So for commercial businesses partnering with NGOs, nonprofits and charities, does the community organisation need to be an incorporated society with a Samoan licence, or can they be overseas based? The community organisations can be both Samoan and overseas based. We have some great examples of working with large NGOs who are based overseas. So World Vision is working in care. World Vision in the Solomon Islands is working with a local cocoa producer and really helping that cocoa producer to engage more women into its supply chain and develop an export quality cocoa product. So Fair Trade Australia and New Zealand are also involved in our partnership in Samoa with the Savai Coconut Farmers Association. So yeah, it can be either. In terms of elaborating on the in-kind investments, generally what we mean by that is, so if a partner is using existing staff to work on an initiative that they're already paying that salary, so they're not hiring new staff members, you can count their time equivalent of their salary to your investment against the partnership, but it just must be justified and at market rate. We can also look at things like office space. So if you're, as part of your partnership, using part of your existing office space on which you pay rent, you put a portion of that investment against your co-contribution to the partnership. An allocation of land would also be eligible for this kind of cost share. But again, it just has to be justifiable and at market rates.
And there has to be a clear link to the need of the use of your land or staff or venue for the BPP partnership specifically. There needs to be a clear link.
So I think in terms of having not developed the product yet, we managed to cover that, that it's possible to develop a product as part of a partnership. So if there are no more questions, can entities submit more than one concept proposal? Yes, entities can submit more than one concept proposal, but they will each be judged on their individual merits. It won't. So if they are linked in any way, it would probably, and it's a way to apply for more than the $500,000 limit, then this would not be eligible. But you can submit two separate applications, which would be assessed separately. Can the value of my existing business be used as my in-kind share? no, what we're really looking for is an additional investment. So if you're looking at rent space, it is space that you need to implement the project. But if you're looking at the value of an existing business, that would be something that that would be not included, as it is already existing.
And just to elaborate, the co-contributions are over the life of the partnership, and the partnerships can be between 1 and 3 years. So if you have a 3-year partnership with us, your co-contribution is across those 3 years, so you don't need to have it all up front. And it's across all of the partners within your partnership. So if you have 3 partners in your partnership, the value of all of those partners' co-contributions must match those that the government provides.
And so if a product is ready before the implementation date, can I submit it to support the application? If the product is ready before, then that's fine, but we wouldn't be able to use the grant to cover the development costs that happened previously. So the initiative would then have to focus on the rollout of that product rather than on the development of that product. And DFAT BPP assist to negotiate to sell back electricity to the national grid. I think so. Essentially, what the offer could be from DFAT there would be introductions to people and networking, but probably wouldn't become involved directly in business negotiations with the national grid operator. But could certainly support in terms of networks and
if you're saying that you're already using electricity within it, or you're either be that's what BPP is envisaged to do. So the BPP is envisaged to do something in a new business initiative that can deliver both a development impact but give you a commercial return that is what you wouldn't have done anyway. So in addition to what you would have done as a normal course of your business.
We might just wait a couple more minutes to see if there's some more questions. And if not, we may pass over to the Australian High Commission in Apia to make any closing remarks.
So just to let you know that our BPP website will also have a frequently asked questions section. So I would suggest that, if you have further questions, have a look at those in the first instance to see if any of those kind of cover the question that you'd like to ask. If you think of some later on, otherwise, please reach out to us and we can answer them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Both. So the email that you emailed for applications@thebpp.com, you can forward any questions to there. And if you're interested to, gauge the suitability of your idea, you can reach out to our colleagues at the Australian High Commission in Apia, who will be willing to talk to you about your ideas and whether they feel it's a good fit for the business partnerships platform.
Hi, Angus. Sally?
Hi, Micheline.
Hi. I don't think there's any more questions from everybody. Just to let you guys know, I'm here with 3 of the private sector businesses. Louis Schwalger from the Manufacturing Association, as well as Maria from SAME. And she's also representing her private business, Cookie. Is it? Fetsau. And my former colleague, Leotsa Laki Sio, former CEO of SPEC, now known as Samoa Business Hub. But I want to thank all the participants, for joining us on this workshop. I think, based on the feedback from the scoping sessions that we did in May and June, one of the key areas that came out was for the need to have an information workshop at the beginning of the program. And hopefully everybody has found it useful, and it'll help ease everybody into the application process, and so that you can develop your business concept notes with confidence. And Laura, unfortunately, Laura's not here. She's just dashed off to another appointment. But yeah, Laura and myself are here on the ground, here in PIA, and if there's anything, you can reach us on email or through mobile. But otherwise, thank you also to the team there in Canberra. Thank you, Sally and Joe, Ariana, and Angus for this great presentation. So hopefully, and we look forward to a very robust round ahead of us, and to receiving some very quality business proposals that would benefit Samoa, especially in this time, with the economic recovery that we really need at the moment. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.